Hi, I'm going to talk to you or take a minute out to talk a little bit about collecting tips. I'd really like to base it strictly off of my approach to collecting. It doesn't mean that everyone out there is going to go by the same rules or regulations, or it's not even rules or regs. It's just kind of guidelines that I try to follow in my experience with collecting the Scout memorabilia. For starters, don't buy based on future gain. I know that when it comes to collecting, we all want to consider or place a certain value on our collection. What I've found in aggregate is that collecting Scout memorabilia is more based on the enjoyment of collecting it versus the proceeds that you may potentially get at the end. Again, based on my experience, when it comes to Scout collections, everybody, or at least a lot of the folks that I work with, tend to want to see the history of Scouting evolve and continue to progress. So more likely than not, maybe at the end of it, hopefully it doesn't, but either it's going to go into the scrap bin, go into the thrift stores, or being handed down to the next person in the troop or the pack, or the council. Some of the memorabilia that I've acquired has been through that method, where others have passed along their collections to me in the hopes that I will display it and present it, and that's my absolute intent. So again, don't buy based on future gain. Next up would be to narrow your areas of interest into manageable fields. When I say that, I'm not saying don't go out. If you're a new collector, absolutely go out and collect anything and everything that you like. Having said that, when you start to get more advanced in your collection, you may want to start considering narrowing what you're actually going after and what you're trying to collect, whether that's council shoulder patches, whether that's Order of the Arrow flaps, whether that's local scouting events or Scout memorabilia, just like my collection really for the Baltimore and Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia area. That's the majority of my collection is within that, and it really evolved from going from Baltimore area council collecting that memorabilia up to collecting the Nentico Lodge 12 memorabilia, to starting to collect the stuff that's in the local section and the local area 3A conference, moving back in history, then collecting some of the other lodges that are in that area, the local councils in that area, and then gradually evolving to become a state and the local states within the area of the collection that I have. Consider the size of your what you're trying to collect. Some folks will go out and try to collect the backpacks, the mess kits, anything with the BSA logo on it. I commend them. More power to you. Having said that, there's a lot of us experience, especially when we have all our camping equipment, backpacking gear, wilderness survival stuff, things like that. The space in the house tends to gradually get taken up with all that equipment. Therefore, you really have to focus your attention on what you're trying to collect. If you're collecting baseball cards, obviously you can put most of the baseball cards into binders, and you can easily store them. As you start collecting different items like Boy Scout uniforms or even flags, they tend to take up a lot more space. So you have to certainly consider the size of the items in which you are trying to collect. I'm going to say this in general terms. Realize that after an event, whether it be a Order of the Arrow conference, whether it's a fellowship, whether it is a national jamboree, that in my experience, more likely than not, the value of some of those items that were placed on during that event, the go-to flap or the go-to patch set, that was really hot during that event, may taper off after the event's over, and it may be a lot easier to get. So don't be so concerned that, oh no, once this event's over, I'm never going to see it, I'm never going to get it. I will say, certainly in my experience, there's been very few items that haven't popped back up, whether it's on eBay or whether it's on some of the collector memorabilia websites in which they sell stuff, or during traderies or fellowships, that some of these things won't present themselves to either trade or procure after the fact. This is a touchy subject, and I want to say that I fully support the Boy Scouts of America, and I fully support the local councils and what they do to try to raise funds. We can't operate within the BSA without funds. Having said that, when it comes to some of the previous initiatives, such as the Friends of Scouting patches that were given out in recognition of the donations, the way in which a lot of collectors are looking at those Friends of Scouter patches are they're another CSP. You know, they're just like any other CSP that you can pick up from the council. It should not be related back to the amount that donation was given to the council. I.e., if you're either you or your parents are giving $100 to the council and getting a patch back, it doesn't necessarily mean that Friends of Scouting patch is going to be worth $100 within trade. So certainly consider those. Obviously, eBay and a number of online sites, whether it's Craigslist or there's quite a few different Boy Scout websites. Sanity Swapper has a great site out there that you can go to and try to procure different patches and different Boy Scout memorabilia from across the world, across the nation. Those are great avenues to try to help and go to look at and try to get other stuff. Obviously, going to your council store or going online to your council shop or your lodge shop. If you're in the Order of the Arrow, you can kind of go to the lodge treasurer and see what patches they may be putting out to try to help develop and advance your collection as well. Two other key points: you got to have fun. Scout collecting and collecting the memorabilia and patch trading should be fun. It should be a group dynamic. What I'm finding more and more when I go to these traderies, it's more about getting together with old friends and acquaintances, talking and seeing how everybody's doing over time, as it is trying to go and trade for that patch that you've been looking for a number of years, and you're so excited to get and be able to put it into your collection. And then my final point that I have to shout back to my mom with, the patch is only worth as much as someone is willing to either give you or trade you for it. So consider that the truth. Really, as much as you might put a certain dollar amount or a certain value on that, based on the history that you have with that scout item. Again, unfortunately, it's really only worth as much as someone's willing to give you for it. So just consider that when you're collecting, and I wish you the best in your journey, and go out there and try to trade some patches.